sorry, Mr. Steph. We may need that extra step back.
We're now on the record.
All right. Ms. Richard, your clients had to go. Okay. And you're okay moving forward without him?
We agreed that he could call in, you know, or someone could, so he could hear what was going on.
Okay.
There's some things that are said, so he would know.
All right, do you want to call him in now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, I think we're okay. I mean, right now it's just the video. I assume there's not going to be audio for this anyway.
There's no audio on it.
Okay.
That's right, I'm sorry.
Okay, so for the record, this is January the 21st, 2017, the Nashville Main Library. There was a visitation that occurred that day. Ms. Stevenson has already testified to. This begins the security camera at 1:01 p.m. and 23 seconds. And I would just help things here. This right here is Ms. Hubbell, and the child is right there, and this is Mr. Guider. And if you'll just kind of start it, they'll disappear for a little while, and then they're going to appear in this video.
Where in the other pictures is that? I mean, which part of the library are we looking at?
This is the staircase. Well, I don't know what your question is.
I'm just trying to get a feel for what. So that's the top of the stairs that is the bottom part of the
I'm not going to only tell you by what it's labeled. Can you tell? I can't read this over here. Sir, can you tell me what that says? Third floor landing 2, is that what it says?
It does.
Third floor landing 2, and that says vestibule.
Okay.
And they'll show up on another staircase. I think it's in the frame above that. The middle frame on the left-hand side there, they are approaching the staircase. In the middle frame on the left column.
Is there sound in this, Ms. Reagan?
There's no sound.
Okay.
I'm seeing this, so that it looks like they kind of disappear for a little while they're moving. I couldn't locate them until they get to the vestibule. Okay, now there they are in the vestibule in the top. And if we can double click on that, there you go.
That's nice. As we were coming down the stairs, we followed Simone. Sorry. I'm in her face there. Shh.
point, I would just object to continued relevance. If there's a way to fast forward until something else happens, or is it?
How much more of this is it, Ms. Regular?
Well, I mean, it's about 20 more minutes. It's about 30 minutes.
We're just standing there watching them. What's the, I guess, what's your purpose of?
Well, I think there's several things. First of all, showing Mr. Guider, who has an order of protection against Ms. Hubbell, is standing a foot away from her video, recording her the entire time. That the mother
That
is...
wouldn't be relevant as to her visitation.
Well, I think
the issue that I'm deciding is whether or not she's ready for unsupervised visits. What I'm seeing in this video does not prove anything to help the situation, whether she's ready for unsupervised visits.
Well, and as part of, I mean, as our argument to the court, and you know, part of what I've already specifically pointed out to the court, your order, which talked about 2 months of supervised visitation, and if you, and all those records have been submitted to this court, and if you will look at those 2 months of visits, nobody stopped a visit. The order does, your court order does not say, mother cannot say the word homeschool. If it's mentioned in any of those prior visits, they say, well, we just redirect her, everything's fine, nobody threatened to stop the visits, and everything was fine until August the 26th, the end of the 2 months. And that's the one I had read into the record. When Mr. Guider knew that she had completed her 2 months of supervised visits, he then gets into a fight with Camelot.
Is
and
this closing argument, are we
well,
objection, or?
As
to relevance.
to my relevance rejection.
And
everything.
everything.
I don't think this is relevant. I mean, if anything, this shows that your client is not ready for unsupervised visits by the fact that she's clearly not supposed to go out of the library. It's clear when she first opened the door that that was her, what it appeared to be her intent. So this is not it, and I'm not really concerned about Mr. Guider's action. It's about your client and your client's action. And we can watch this the more and more, but if it's this is what I'm seeing now, it doesn't show me anything that would show that she's ready for unsupervised visits.
Well, it shows that this child is clinging to her mother.
Because her mother has put her in that situation.
Well, I know this is argument then at this point.
It is argument. I don't know if there's anything else that I need to see on this that's going to make a difference.
I mean, well, you can object to watching it, but I'm proffering it to the court.
All right. Is there anything that changes where we are now? Is this focus?
Your Honor, on behalf of my client, I would support that we watch it, Your Honor, because it needs to be entered into the record for the purposes of appeal to show that, again, if we're saying that the mother has not done what she needs to do to warrant unsupervised visitations, and we believe that this video proves that, that would be evidence for the Court of Appeals, or record for the Court of Appeals to view. That would be my position, Your Honor, so we can be clear on what restrictions and guidelines were in place. Whether or not Mr. GIDER has the order of protection in place or not, it is clear just based upon my comprehension that the purpose of him being there and videoing at that time is to ensure that she doesn't leave with his child. So again, I would submit that the court watch the entire video.
Or I can just put it in as an offer of proof. I mean, I'll submit the whole thing and file it as an offer of proof if you don't, you know, if you don't feel like if it's relevant to the court.
My issue too, if this is the whole sum of it, with this posturing that's going on right now, that's pretty much all of it. Or we can fast forward to if anything goes different, but I think I've seen, unless there's more on there or more behavior.
What about when the law enforcement officials arrive? Do we have that? Because I haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there? Can you fast forward to your notes? Or do you not? Can you?
That's me. Sorry.
Okay, if you put, hang on. Nope, that one. Yeah, that's it. Right there.
And Your Honor, for the record, if you could pause 1 second, if we could state for the record what time frame we're watching as to the video, so that way it'll be clear for the record on Court of Appeals, Your Honor.
1:29 p.m.
We're at right now, we're about 1:29, 59, it's probably about, or 52, sorry. I imagine about 1:28 something when we started, when the law enforcement came in.
This isn't actually the time, though.
Yeah, it is. No, it's,
Because we left. We left at 1:30. As soon as it was 1:30, we left.
yeah, well, it's 1:30 now. You're
Well,
right.
it's not really 1:30, it's actually in between, it's 2 something, that time is right there. But it looks like it has a time frame for that, and that's how long this video actually is.
No, it says 1:30 p.m.
Oh,
They're about-
okay,
it's
I
about over
can't see
there.
it from the side.
It's about over there.
Okay, there she goes. There she goes. Yeah, she left at 1:30. That's all she wanted. All she wanted was to get her 2 hours in with her mom.
Okay, we're on the record, Ms. Guider, there's no questions, you're not a witness at this time, so if you please keep your comments to yourself.
Miss Hubbell.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hubbell.
And there's only one thing, I think shortly after the police officers come in, they're handed a document to look at, which I can only assume is a court order. I don't know. I believe Mr. Guider handed it to him, and they looked at it and handed it back. That would be the only other thing.
Then if there's nothing else relevant,
Yeah, you can stop it now.
All right, we shall stop it.
If we could be clear, Your Honor, for what the first part, I'm just sorry, because when we go up to the Court of Appeals on this again, we want to make sure the record is clear for everything. In regards to the part where it actually began on the first, because we viewed 2 parts of this, the part that actually began where she went out the door, if we could have that time stamp time, please.
That was when it started, that was
When it started, when she,
That was when she started, 101.
101,
23.
okay.
And if you'll give me a late file number on that, I will submit it.
And will it be
in a
the
form.
actual thumb drive that they?
Yeah, I guess
okay.
I'll have to do, yeah.
Okay.
Let me know.
Number, late file number 9.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right, your next witness? Or do we need to call Mr. Guider now?
that was their video, so today.
Yeah, I have nothing further.
I would call Miss Hubbell as my first
All right, let's call Mr. Guider in so we can hear.
I think he's with the child, so I don't necessarily.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I wouldn't need to call. I don't.
Okay. So you're comfortable with your client not being, okay. Ms. Hubbell, let me get you to stand and raise your right hand. I don't think you've been sworn enough.
Do you swear a firm testimony about this, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Ms. Hubbell, while we were watching that video, did you make a comment out loud?
I think I did make a comment or two. You have to refresh my memory.
Did you make a comment along the lines of all she wanted was to get 2 hours of time with her mom?
Yes, I believe I said that.
And what made you make that comment?
Because at the 1:30 point, she looked at her dad, asked him what time it was. She said it was 1:30, and she said, okay, and she's ready to go. So she was waiting to get her 2 hours in.
And who had told her that she was supposed to have that 2 hours?
I told her that at the beginning of the visit. We have 2 hours. We only have 2 hours. We don't have 4 like we had last time.
And did you tell her that 1:30 was the time that visit was supposed to be done?
I might have told the police that in front of her, that our visit was supposed to be 11:30 to 1:30.
And would that have been right before she asked what time it was?
I think the police came sooner. I think we had about 7 minutes left in our visit when the police came, and I said, yeah. She wanted to leave when it was 1:30. It was 1:30.
How do you know she wanted that?
Because she said so.
How did she know exactly when really to hit the 1:30 mark to ask her that what time it was?
She didn't know. Every few minutes we asked, what time is it, what time is it? And then she happened to ask her dad, what time is it? And he said 1:30, and she said, show me. And he showed her, and she looked at me and said, it's 1:30. And I said, okay, well, our visit's over. And she kissed me and went on her merry way.
Now, you phrased that interesting. You said, we asked. Was it her that was asking, or was it we, being you and her, that were asking?
I think the only time, well, I don't remember. I think, I remember asking the police, but I think when she asked her dad, at that last time.
Okay.
That I had, you know, we were just kind of randomly said, does anybody got the time? You know.
And why did you need to know what time it was?
We needed to know what time it was because when the 2-hour visit was over, she needed to leave with her dad.
You didn't think she needed to leave with her dad when the supervisor told you to supervise?
No, absolutely
that the visit
not.
was over?
Absolutely not. Because, yeah.
And did you express to her that you didn't think she needed to leave with her dad when the supervisor told you the visit was over?
To Laura? Mm-hmm. I told the supervisor in front of her that it wasn't 1:30, and I wasn't agreeing that the visit would end because we were supposed to get 4 hours a week, and we weren't getting 4 hours a week. We were only getting 2 hours a week, and I wasn't going to agree to cutting it short because the visitation supervisor was arbitrarily deciding to end the visit early. Didn't believe that was in my child's best interest.
I have no further questions.
I have a few. You want to go next?
I'm sorry, I forgot where I was for a minute. I was writing. What happened?
She closed.
You
want to go next?
Are we?
I called her as a rebuttal witness.
Well,
just as a rebuttal witness to the video, so we're still letting. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Regular. I don't know what I'm doing.
You got any questions, Regular?
well, I don't. We closed our proof. She's calling Lydia as a witness. So I just have a few questions.
That's what I just want to be clear because that's what I was thinking. I was like,
Ms. Hubbell, I'm going to hand you a copy of the order entered by this court October the 15th, 2015. When you came to see me, did you show me this order as well?
Yes.
Because, of course, I was not part of that proceeding. And I opened it there to page 9. And I sure will. And that's the page that I think talks about restrictions placed on you regarding social media and conversations with your daughter. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now, I've looked at it. I've not seen where you are prohibited from using the word homeschool. Is that in there and I've just missed it?
I've read it several times, and I cannot see any prohibition against mentioning homeschool in this order.
Okay. All right. And this exhibit I'm going to hand you, which has been marked as exhibit number 7, has been identified as an email that went from Sinan Guider, Dolores.
Objection beyond the scope of the direct hire?
It's.
I guess we call her as a witness.
Yeah.
Right, and this is, so now they're crossing, and this is beyond the scope of what I had asked her about.
The cross-examination.
Cross-examination is open.
So exhibit number 7, had you seen that before today?
No.
Okay, so it says up there, it is from Sinan Guider to Tracy Rose. It's copied to Miss Rice. It's copied to
Latasha Stevens.
Latasha Stevens. It's copied to somebody else.
Objection to counsel testimony?
Okay, well, we've already identified this on the record.
Yeah.
Anywhere in that email, do they send it to you or to your then counsel? Me? And
No.
Okay. And do you see these restrictions enumerated here in the middle of the
Yes.
page? Do you know of any court order that enumerates those restrictions?
I don't recall any of these being in any court order.
Okay, now down here in this paragraph, about Ms. Hubbell is making child abuse allegations. Had you called DCS or made any child abuse allegations against him?
Objection, Your Honor. The referring of child abuse allegations is supposed to be confidential.
Well, I can ask her if she's made any referrals.
Your Honor, I think that
I'll sustain that.
Have you made any, in or about November 2016, had you made any allegations of child abuse?
I was making.
Your Honor, I'm still going to state the same objection.
I didn't ask about calling DCS.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll rule that one.
I was saying that the conditions he was maintaining Delara in were harming her.
Okay.
Psychologically.
What condition is that?
Keeping her from her mother and keeping her from getting an appropriate education.
Now, this comment about she can make Delara lie, have you heard that before?
No.
Okay.
I've never heard that, ever.
Okay. Have you been accused of making Delara lie?
Objection to relevance.
Not that I know of.
What's irrelevant?
Well, again, it's already in evidence, and it goes to this whole visitation after the 2 months was.
Objection.
Go ahead. Have you, has any court ever found that you make a Delara lie?
No.
Okay, how does it make you feel to read that?
It makes me cry because the last thing I want is a dishonest child and a rebellious child and a violent child, and that's what this court's made out of her.
Okay, now let's talk just a couple things. I want to ask you about Ms. Stevenson's testimony. She said that she terminated the visit when you said, let's pretend like we're homeschooling. Does that sound accurate to you, about accurate?
I didn't.
Objection to mischaracterization of the witness's testimony. She said she tried to redirect the visit at that point in time, Your Honor.
But she said she ended it when the mother said, let's pretend like we're homeschooling.
Objection, that's not.
Well, the court heard the testimony.
I'll say that.
What was the question?
What is your recollection of the event that caused her to say that visitation's over?
Delara had this book she wanted to read to me, and we were talking about things and making lessons out of it. And I mentioned how some woman on a homeschooling blog said, "Don't."
Objection to hearsay.
No, it's not being offered for the truth of the matter.
Don't
I'll
make.
sustain.
Okay, so you were telling her about something on a homeschooling blog, period, right?
Yeah, not.
Okay, you don't have to say what it read, but did it have? But did it have something to do with educating?
I said I like to make lessons out of everything.
Okay.
That was what I said. I like to make lessons out of everything.
Okay.
As a mother.
And is that when Ms. Stevenson told you she was ending the visit?
I think she might have threatened to at that point. She made some comment.
But do you remember what happened when she just said it's over? Or what did she say? Did she say the visitation's over?
Yeah, and I told her it's not 1:30 and the visit's not over till it's 1:30.
And how did Delara react when she said it's over?
Objection to misclassification. She didn't say that she said it was over. She said, I said it's not over till 1:30.
No, I asked her when Ms. Stevenson said it was over. When Ms. Stevenson said the visitation was over, how did Delara react to that?
She didn't really react. She didn't want him to visit. She indicated that she didn't want him to visit early, and she had that option when we saw, the security coming, and I said, do you want him to visit, or do you want to get your whole 2 hours in? And she wanted to get the whole 2 hours in.
And did you know Ms. Stevenson was sending text messages to Mr. Guider?
No, but I'm not surprised that she was.
Okay. Did she tell you she was texting him
No.
to come and pick her up? All right, you saw the video. He comes upstairs and follows you all the way down the stairs. Is that correct?
No, we followed him.
Okay.
They said, when I saw the security, I said, I told Delara, I said, let's leave the library and not make a scene in here, and let's go to the park across the street and finish our visit, because there's a little park right across the street, right out those doors. And we've left the building. Every visitation monitor we've had, we've left the building at some point during the visit. So I didn't realize there'd be a problem.
Well, and in fact, we didn't read through every single entry, but I noticed in some of the Camelot visitations.
Objection to counsel testifying.
What's cross-examination at this point?
Council's still testifying as to what she observed in Camelot visitation records.
Okay, well, I'll just ask her. In those Camelot visitation records, where are some of the other locations that you've done visitation?
We've done the park. We went outside to where she was doing sidewalk chalk on this little courtyard outside the library building. When we met at the nature center at the Edwin Warner Park, we left the building and went to the garden. So nobody's ever told me you have to stay in the building, and we were all together. Oh, what I was saying was when I said let's leave, they said let's take the stairs, not the elevator.
Who said that?
I don't.
Objection and non-responsive. My objection was the same.
She asked me what happened.
My question was, who said, you made a comment about somebody said something when you left. Who said something?
About taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Latasha that said that.
Okay, we're not going to talk about what she said. That doesn't matter.
And then we followed him. We followed Sanan. Sanan led the way.
Okay, you already said that.
Okay.
And then, so did you intend to kidnap her or take her,
No.
abscond with her?
No, I just want to go to the park to finish the visit.
Okay.
Right across the street.
Was it a nice day?
Yeah.
Okay. And did Ms. Stevenson tell you she's going to have you arrested for kidnapping or charged with
Yes.
kidnapping?
She said if you walk out those doors, you'll be kidnapping.
Okay. Now, I already asked her this, but you were in the library on the 3rd floor, is that right?
Yes.
And how would you describe that 3rd floor? Where were you?
It was the computer area, and there was a pillar.
Okay, listen, that wasn't a good question. Is it a big room or small room?
Big, very big room.
All right, were there other people in the room?
Many, many people.
And is it a room that you're supposed to keep noise to a minimum?
Yes.
Okay. So you heard Ms. Stevenson say that you whispered to Delara, and that was one of the reasons that she was concerned. Did you hear her say that today, testify to that?
Yes, but I wasn't whispering to her.
Okay.
When Delara read the book to me, she was reading in a normal voice. We were using our inside voices, but we were not whispering at any point.
Okay.
There.
But were you in a library, right?
Yes, we were
Okay.
just using quiet indoor voices, but it wasn't a
Okay.
whisper.
Okay.
And if we were whispering, she was right there, so she would have heard.
And do you believe your visit should have even been ended that day?
It absolutely should not have ended. It was not in my daughter's best interest to end the visit.
All right, now you heard, just so that you heard Ms. Stevenson talk about they didn't recommend completing their services, and she went through each month. You had no visits in September, correct?
Right.
No visits in October, correct?
Right.
And the first you had in November was the 26th, right?
Right.
And that's the one you had to pay for yourself?
Right.
When you went to pay for that yourself, did Camelot give you any indication that they didn't want to do the visit?
No.
Or there was any problems with it?
No.
Okay. And I think that's all I have.
All right, Ms. Maxine.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Ms. Hubbell. I want to go right to where your counsel just left off in regards to your understanding from the visits from June to July and August of 2016 in regards to whether or not Camelot discussed with you their desire to end the visits. Those visits ended in August of 2016 per se, because your testimony was that you didn't have any in September, correct?
I did have approval from DCS to get them, but Sanan would not schedule them.
In September 2016 and October 2016, you testified that you didn't get visits until November of 2016, correct?
Right.
Isn't it true that realistically all of these issues began when Mr. GIDER or someone found out that you were actually going to the school and having lunch with your child, your daughter, outside of the court-ordered visitations?
No, they started my last visit with Judy. That's when the problem started, and Judy, yeah.
And Judy, what now? They started with your last visit?
It started with
Judy?
the last visit when Judy said she didn't
Actually,
think.
here's that.
Well, she was being responsive to the question, so I guess.
No,
Judy
No.
said she was not being responsive. I'll sustain the objection.
Last visit with Judith, it was what you said, and that's when the problems began.
When the 2 months were over.
What did you learn from that visit at that point in time from Judith?
That the father did not want visits he did not want the supervision to end, he wanted the supervision to continue.
Okay, and at that point, Ms. Hubbell, I hear you saying Camelot did nothing, DCS did nothing. What did you do to ensure that you received those court-ordered visitations? What did you do legally?
I don't understand the question.
What steps did you take legally? You're saying someone stopped you from having what you were entitled to having. What steps did you take to make sure you received it legally?
Hired a lawyer
When did you hire a lawyer?
in September.
September. And in September of 2016, was there any motion filed to order your visitations to be put in place because you were being prevented from having visitations?
I have to look and see, what we did was when they, it was in mid-October,
Mm-hmm.
and they filed a motion to suspend visitation totally,
Mhm.
supervised, unsupervised.
Mm-hmm.
And that was to be heard October 31st, and we answered that and asked for relief, and she came to court, and the magistrate Rosenberg said that there wasn't enough time to hear it.
So let me ask you, you're telling the court that, one, you don't feel like you need those visitations, those court-ordered visitations, correct?
I feel like according to the law, I believe that the bar has not been met to require visitation to be supervised and restricted.
Okay. And you disagree with the court order?
Yes, that's why it's in the
Right, you
court
disagree with the
right
court
now.
order.
Right.
You disagree with Camelot at this point in time, correct?
Camelot, this last visit, I disagreed they had authority to end the visit early. Because,
Okay. Do you disagree that in June, Camelot had concerns with you having appropriate communication with your daughter?
They didn't give any indication to me.
Okay.
I thought it was a great visit.
Let me ask you this. Did you not get copies of the therapeutic visitation notes yourself?
I did not get any copies of the therapeutic visitation notes until December.
Okay, in December, say you get copies of those.
No, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. I got them in September. I got them in September and took them to the school and said, this shows that I've not done any, there's nothing, the law says visitation should not be restricted unless there's definite proof that if it's not supervised, harm will befall the child.
Okay.
And there's nothing in those 2 months of supervised notes to indicate that somebody had to be supervising to keep me from harming my child.
Okay, so you went to the school when you got those notes?
Yes, that's
You
when I got
didn't come to
those.
the court?
Came to the court October 31st.
Okay, so you went to the school, and is it your understanding that the school could make some determinations on whether or not you could see your child based upon those notes that they read?
I think my...
I'm sorry, strike that. Based upon those notes that you presented to them?
There's nothing in there to show that... and a copy of the court order. A copy of the court order and the visitation notes, nothing in there showed, gave the school authority. Oh, and there had been a temporary restraining order that they lied to get,
Okay.
and they had to withdraw it. But this was all Sanam Gider making sure I did not have any contact with my child that he did not feel like he had control of.
Okay, and so I'm trying to understand and make sure that I'm clear. You're saying that, in one voice you're saying somebody prevented you from having these therapeutic visitations, but in another voice you said you didn't need them. Which one is it, Ms. Hubbell?
Okay, we didn't need them, but because it was determined that it's better to have supervised visitation than no visitation at all.
Okay.
Therefore, it was determined to be in the child's best interest
Who
to
determined
have, I think Camelot, DCS, I'm not sure who determined that, but I think in the Camelot notes, they say something about this is necessary so they can get paid for it by DCS and DCS because it's, my daughter I had been cut out of, I was a primary caregiver of my child, and I'd been cut out of her.
Objection, non-responsive for the question.
What's the question?
Question for.
Ms. Hubbell, you're saying in September, October, and November of 2016, you didn't have, until end of November, you didn't have your therapeutic visits, the therapeutic visitation, that the sole goal with those visitations were for you to learn how to appropriately communicate with your daughter, and correct?
I don't believe that the legal requirement for
I'm not talking about the legal requirement, I'm talking about the court order that you just read with your attorney. Was the purpose of those supervised visitations was to help you be able to appropriately communicate with the child, and at what point, when you were ready to step down to unsupervised visitations, then that issue would be addressed? Was that your understanding? If it wasn't, that's okay.
I'm not understanding your question.
You were going these, one voice you're saying, I didn't need these therapeutic visitations, I don't need Camelot. But now when I hear you're saying, I hear you consistently say, they didn't give me what I needed.
I needed contact with my daughter.
Okay.
That's what I needed. But Camelot made it available. Camelot, DCS and Camelot both made supervised visitation available in September. Sanan refused to set it up. They made it available in October. Sanan refused to set it up. And then DCS was very slow in November, and having not seen Delara for 2.5 months and knowing how she was going absolutely crazy at school, thinking, you go a year without seeing your mother, and then you expect to have your mother in your life again, and to get jerked out again. I felt like it was important to see her and reassure her.
Ms. Hubbell, and I'm genuinely trying to understand that even in August, when you believe that you learned that you had satisfied the requirements, did you receive a letter from from Camelot, from Judith Mullins, or the Department of Children's Services that said, Ms. Hubbell, we're now ready to begin unsupervised contact with Delara?
I didn't get a letter like that on the case notes.
The case note, you're telling this court that in the case notes it said that Lydia Hubbell is ready to have unsupervised visitations with Delara at this point in time.
What the law says is
I'm not asking you what the law says, Ms. Hubbell. I'm genuinely asking you, did you receive any documentation?
You got a copy of the same notes
Ms.
I got.
Hubbell, I'm asking you, did you receive this?
Yes, I received a copy of the case notes. I told you that.
And did those case notes say to you that Lydia Hubbell has complied with all of the services for Camelot and she is no longer needing supervised visitations at this time?
That was not spelled out specifically like that.
Okay, so no, that would be a no.
The notes did not say what you just said. Asked me if they said. They did not say that.
Did the notes say, Lydia, you can go visit Delara unsupervised?
The notes did not say that either.
Did the court say, Lydia, you can go visit Delara unsupervised?
Did what?
Did any court order say, Lydia, now you're ready, go visit Delara unsupervised?
No, it did not say
Did
that.
DCS say, hey Lydia, you're ready, go visit Delara unsupervised?
No, they did not say that.
What did you have as an order of anything to tell you anything different other than that you were to continue with supervised visitations?
I didn't have an order, but I had what Judy Mullins told me in person.
Okay.
And I also had the Court of Appeals Mashburn versus Mashburn case that clearly spelled out what is required by the law.
So Lydia, Ms. Hubbell, let me ask you something. And I need you to be clear for me, okay? Does it matter what a court order says for you to do?
Yeah, I would say it does. It matters what
This-
court orders say, yes.
Okay, it matters to you what the court orders say.
Yes, it matters what court orders
Okay,
say.
if a court order says the mother is to have unsupervised visitations until she demonstrates, and I apologize, I don't have the order on me right now to read it verbatim. I'm sorry.
Until agency facilitating therapeutic visitation sessions determine that mother is ready for unsupervised
I need for Ms. Hubbell to
visit.
read it, make sure she understands it. What page is that in the order, Ms. Hubbell?
9,
Page 9.
I think. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
can you?
Second to the
sorry.
last paragraph.
Let me look at it just real quick. Page 9. Okay, it is further ordered, what?
It is further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that when the agency facilitating the therapeutic visitations determines that mother is ready for unsupervised visitation, mother shall be permitted a minimum of 8 hours of unsupervised visitation per week, with any additional visitation to be at father's discretion. The times of such visitation shall be agreed upon by the parties.
Can I see that order? Ms. Hubbell, do you recall the contempt proceeding in this courtroom?
I do.
Do you recall that you admitted to violating the court's orders because you felt like
It was
they
an
were wrong?
unlawful order.
They were unlawful
And I'm
orders,
not-
but you admitted to
I
violating?
object to relevance.
Your Honor, it
I'll
goes,
overrule that one.
okay, you admitted to, after even having the public defender's office come up and advise you of your constitutional rights and talk to you about the statements that you were making. You remember that? You still said, I did it. I know I did it. I feel like this is unjust and this is unconstitutional and they're not doing what's in my daughter's best interest. I'm going to do what I want to do. Do you recall that?
I'm not in those exact words.
Well,
I remember,
again,
I remember saying you can't be held in contempt for disobeying an unlawful order, and it was said, well, it's unlawful until a court says it's
right.
not unlawful.
Do you agree that that order in October 2015 that was put down as a lawful order?
Parts of it, I guess.
Parts of
I don't
it.
have issues with parts of it. But the reason I have issues with parts of it is that's why I appealed it.
Right. But as of right now, do you agree that that order is a lawful order because there's nothing changing it right now? Yes or no?
I think the wording in it is ambiguous. So
Okay.
I think it could have been more clearly written, but the way I read it, I felt like I was...
And you were present when the judge issued all of those orders in the courtroom, correct?
Mhm.
We actually set a hearing for the judge to issue her final ruling in regards to that, correct?
Mhm.
And even at that time, you were clear and aware that you could not have unsupervised contact with your daughter.
Can I see that word again? Did it say contact or did it say, let's see. Visitations. There's
So wait, are you telling the court?
I'm saying that I'm reading visitations,
Okay.
parenting time,
Uh-huh.
as different than the non-custodial parental rights contact of being
Okay.
able to participate in your child's education
And,
and school.
even if you say that, remember that in regards to a parenting plan in this case, that we couldn't even get into a parenting plan because of the fact that we had to get through that hurdle. So we weren't really officially done with this case, correct?
It's my understanding that you don't have to have a formal parenting plan, because we went 5.5 years without one.
Okay.
And I had the right to go to my daughter's preschool. He had the right, he was a
Objection to
non-custodial
relevance,
parent.
Your Honor. What this has to do with whether she's ready.
I think this goes to whether she can follow court order or not.
And I do apologize for the time. Ms. Hubbell?
I already know the answer, but.
Ms.
keep
Hubbell,
going.
even if Delara told you, you know what, Mama, I don't really want to talk about some of this stuff that you want to talk about, or I don't even want to hear you talk bad about Daddy, or Mama, I don't even want to hear, I don't want to talk about going into court. Would you stop if she asked you?
Would I stop?
Would you stop your line of conversation with your daughter if she asked you to stop talking about homeschool, talking about Daddy, talking about anything that Delara felt to be too much for her? Would you stop?
Those specific subjects you mentioned, I would stop. But I believe as a parent, there are things, I mean, when you discipline a child, they don't want to be confronted. Like when we had that first visit with Tracy Rose, she didn't want to be confronted about her behavior. She didn't want to talk about her feelings in front of a stranger. And so, you know, you have to kind of know how far to push. When Delara meets with Dr. Berryman, it's the same thing. You've got to know how far to push. But on those specific topics that you said, absolutely I can let those go. I don't have to pursue those with her if she says no. But if I say, why did you hit so-and-so, I'm not going to drive her nuts over it.
So let's talk about the court orders, okay? You know, we know that you're not supposed to speak badly about the father or say anything negative, or even try to influence the child to feel a certain way in the past about her father. And we've done that, haven't we? We have a history of doing that.
I have a very, I encourage her to have a positive relationship with her father, a positive attitude towards her father, and a positive attitude towards her school
So
situation.
tell me this, do you believe that you hearing, Delara hearing that, and I'm just talking about what you believe, I know you're not an expert, but just as this baby's mother, do you believe that you're the best fit to raise her? Do you believe that her hearing that,
I never said that.
do you believe that her hearing that it's her father's fault, that she can't see you, is good for her?
I think it's better than her being told that the police say you can't.
Answer yes or no.
And then she can explain.
And then you can explain.
Okay.
That's a yes or no.
Ask me the question again.
Do you believe that it is in Delara's best interest for you to tell her that it's her father's fault why she cannot see you more?
Yes.
Okay.
And you
And
can
then-
explain.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought I was asking.
But she has
No,
the right
I
to
thought I was
explain.
explaining.
Well,
I think it's better if when her father has people coming to her, policemen coming to his house and talking bad about what he disagrees with the mother in front of the child, and then he's telling her
Objection to. Where is
I think children. I think she's going to have
That's not in the record.
She's going to have
I'm
a.
going to sustain objection.
What does that mean?
That means you should probably stop talking at this point and let her ask you the next question.
Ms. Hubbell, do you believe that it is in Delara's best interest that her, after not seeing you for a whole year, you testified, that the topic of her communications with you, when she's only 4 hours a week maybe, that it would be good for her to hear you talk bad about her father?
I'm not talking bad about her father.
You don't see that as talking bad about her father?
No.
Let's strike that.
I don't see that.
Strike that. Do you believe that you were helping Delara by telling her that it's her father's fault that she has been separated from you all this time?
I think it's helping her know that it's not because of something I did.
Okay. So, do you believe it's in Delara's best interest to, how would I say it, Ms. Hubbell, argue with everything everyone tries to do to help you? Except misregulate, of course.
Can you give me a specific example of
If
something?
Camelot
that's
makes a
going on?
recommendation and says, Lydia, it's time to end the visit right now because we believe who is the supervisor, who you said, in essence, they were court ordered to provide you this service, so you wanted it, right? You wanted this service that Camelot provided.
I wanted to see.
So then Camelot says, we're ending this visit, but because you didn't want to end it, you chose not to.
Why would I want to end a visit early with my daughter? How would that be in my daughter's best interest to end a visit early?
The people that ordered
No, I believe that they are not acting in my child's best interest when they're restricting.
So you believe you're the only one
Well,
that's acting
can she
in her best
finish her
interest?
response, please? Please stop cutting her off.
I did nothing to endanger her health, her welfare in any way. It was a very rewarding visit. She was expressing herself.
Law enforcement
She was-
officials came, Ms. Hubbell.
Who called them? I didn't call them.
But you-
Why did they call
let
them?
me ask you
Why
this.
did they call them? What did they do? Was I arrested?
Ms. Hubbell.
They were called because they were to make an incident so that Camelot could have an excuse to cut off my visitation.
Did you
with my
ask them
daughter.
to take your daughter out of the room so you could talk to the adults?
They could have done that after they let me finish my parenting time. We had 30 minutes left.
So is that, all you cared about was getting your 2 hours and nobody was going to stop
I
you from
care
getting
about
that?
standing up for my rights as a parent and for my
Even if
daughter's
it affects
rights.
Delara's mental health? Even if it affects Delara's
It
mental
would
health?
have affected her mental health if I had let them cut my visit off short early, just arbitrarily abusing their authority and saying, well, we're going to decide to not end your visit. They had no authority whatsoever to end my visit. That homeschool, that word
Objection and
homeschool
non-responsive.
was not on the list.
So
There-
your,
That was
Objection and
arbitrary
non-responsive.
abuse.
Judge, she is responding. She is responding to that
She's
question.
gone way far.
so even if there was a dispute about whether or not that's in the order or not in the order, you believe that it was appropriate for you to have that communication in front of your daughter?
I believe it was inappropriate for them to call the police. and
That's
get my
not the
visit
question
over.
that I asked you, Ms. Hubbell. You believe that it was appropriate for you to continue to defy
Absolutely.
the supervisor
It
who
was
was there to help you?
appropriate for me to see that I could stand up and protect my daughter and
And that's what
defend her
Delara
rights.
needs to see.
Absolutely.
And that's what Delara is used to seeing with you, isn't that correct?
I hope she's used to me seeing
That's all I need.
protecting and defending her as a mother.
That's all my questions.
Anything else?
I have a couple questions. Does it say anywhere in this order that you have to get a written report from an agency?
No, it just says they determine a determination, and my understanding from talking from Judy Mullins telling
Objection and
me
non-responsive.
it was
She
her.
said
She
no.
had determined that it was.
Did you talk to Ms. Mullins at the end of August about recommending or making any comments about whether or not you could have or get her determination about unsupervised visits? Did you ask Ms. Mullins about that?
She's what she said.
I'll sustain.
Judge, this is not offered for the truth of the matter, but as to what her understanding is. Your order does not say a
My
written
order,
report.
and we clarify what the order says, and the order says that Judy Mullins is not here to tell us that that's what she said. There's nothing in the Camelot record that said, I'm sustaining her hearsay, because that would mean I would need to believe what Judy Mullins said, that she could be ready for it.
Okay,
So I'm sustaining the objection.
Let me ask a different question. Did you have a conversation with Judy Mullins about it?
Yes.
And based upon that conversation that you had with Ms. Mullins, did you believe that Camelot believed they had fulfilled their duty?
Yes.
All right, and so, you were asked by the guardian ad litem a question about what you did. There was also a DCS meeting in September, isn't that right?
Yes.
And was part of that, was that before you had an attorney? Before you hired me?
I had talked to you, but I had pulled you in. I hadn't. Yeah.
You had some difficulty hiring an attorney, isn't that right?
Yes.
What did you have to do to be able to hire
Your
an
Honor, I'm
attorney?
going to object to the relevance of whether or not she can get unsupervised visitations.
Well, because Ms. Mack asked her specifically what she did to be able to get her unsupervised visits.
I get that.
I had to ask for friends and family to help me collect enough money to retain an attorney because I can't afford it on my disability income.
Okay. And did they do that to help you?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went to the DCS meeting and you went without counsel, is that correct?
It was on phone. I was on the phone without counsel.
Okay. And do you recall what Mr. Guider said in that meeting?
He said,
Objection to the honesty of the prosecutor. None of the
Well,
DCS
again-
meeting was at all addressed.
The specific question by Ms. Mack was, what have you done to try to get your unsupervised visit? What did you do? And so this DCS meeting and the things that occurred in that DCS meeting.
How's the thing?
Then there was a restraining order that was entered by
first
Ms.
of September.
submitted by Ms. Rice and Mr. Guider, correct?
Yes.
And you came to court on that,
Yes.
right? And what happened when you came to court on that?
They just, there was no hearing because they withdrew their request for it, and I wasn't even allowed to complain about.
Okay, so that was a restraining order for what? Do you remember?
From going around the school.
Okay. And when they dismissed it or withdrew their restraining order, then did you believe that you then could go to the school?
Yes.
Okay. And is that
There was no court order saying I couldn't go to the school.
okay? And you
As long as there was restraint, I was abiding by the court order as long as I knew it was in effect.
and you fully complied with what Judge Calloway did as far as getting the supervision
Objection,
for.
Your Honor, to the characterization of fully complied.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I haven't even finished my question. I haven't finished my
She hadn't fully
question.
complied.
With the court's order for July and August, for the months of July and August. Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Just a very brief one.
Okay.
You were present at the hearing when the restraining order, when the request for the restraining order was dismissed. Is that right, Ms. Hubbell?
Yes.
And do you recall that the announcement was made to the court that the reason for the dismissal was...
Well,
that the
Judge,
court
I'm gonna object if Ms. Rice is trying to get what she said in the courtroom admitted into evidence, then she needs to testify.
Your Honor, it goes to what her understanding of why the order was dismissed was, which they brought up, and we said in court the reason for the dismissal of the order. So if she was there and heard that, then it's pretty relevant that she heard the reason for the dismissal of the order.
It's not what we said, it's what Ms. Rice said.
Okay. Well, then, no further questions, sir.
Okay.
Nothing further.
All right, you can see Ms. Hubbell. Anything else, Ms. Reese? Mack, any witnesses?
Well, just, we haven't addressed the issue of the child testifying, and I do have a letter from Dr. Berryman about what she thinks would be in the child's best interest as far as testimony, Your Honor.
All right.
Well, and I think we talked about this before. I mean, it's hearsay. I haven't had the opportunity to cross-examine her on that, so.
Your Honor, my position would be that the mother, as well as Ms. Regulate, have been in direct communication with Dr. Berryman in regards to this case this entire time. And so I believe that we're all on one accord that Dr. Berryman is providing this service, and this is a therapist's recommendation in regards to whether or not my client should testify. I believe that I have communicated what I believe is in her best interest, but again, if the child is engaged in therapy, we need that therapist's recommendation, and I believe that documentation from Dr. Berryman, who has testified as an expert in this court on numerous occasions, is verifiable proof. Although we're missing the affidavit, but Dr. Berryman is available by phone, and again,
Is she still available by phone, ma'am?
I can try her.
All right, let's see if we can try her real quick until she's available.
And for purposes of the court, that is a letter that is written to me as guardian ad litem as to what her position was at my request for what services that she is providing. And it's just, again, it's a therapeutic recommendation, Your Honor. I don't see any issue with it coming into the record.
What caller is it?
Do you want me to do it on my phone or on?
We can do it on this phone up here.
Okay.
If I have a voicemail recording of her talking about that on my letting the voicemail recording, is that admissible?
If you want it, that's you have to talk to you.
I don't think I have a, is that different from this letter?
It's the same. It's just that they have a copy of it that he was emailed to them. I think that's the email copy of mine. It says Ms. Mack on yours as well. Yeah.
I haven't seen her.
This is Jamie.
Oh, good.
Can I speak to Dr. Berryman?
This is she.
Hey, Dr. Berryman, this is Sheila Calloway, juvenile court judge.
Yes, ma'am.
We are actually in court on the matter of Abigail Delara Guider. Are you available to talk to us for a few minutes?
I am.
All right, wonderful. Let me get, if you can raise your right hand for me.
Okay.
Do you swear, affirm, to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Reese, I don't know if you need to come over here, just make sure you can hear me.
Good afternoon, Dr. Berryman. This is Sarah Wright. We've spoken briefly on the phone. I'm the attorney for Sonoma there.
Yes, ma'am.
You have you had a chance to meet with Delara?
I have.
When did you first begin meeting with her?
October 2016.
Okay. Have you provided a letter that was addressed to Ms. Mack as, that includes the dates that you have met with Delara and some of your observations of what your recommendations are?
That's correct. I dated that February 8, 2017.
Okay. Would you ask that the court review your letter and consider that as your recommendation of what you think should happen with Delara?
That's what I consider this to be, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move to admit that. And she can cross.
All right, any objections at this time?
Well, I think we'd need to ask some questions, yeah, before it's admitted.
I think she authenticated it, was irrelevant.
But it's an opinion, it's not, it's an opinion,
But I think you
it's
asked a
not
question
record.
about it, whether it's admissible or not. It's just whether it's authentic and relevant to the matters at hand. I think you can cross-examine her on the issues here.
Okay.
So I'll admit
if she's
I'll
finding
admit
me as authentic there as an expert, is that
I'll admit the letter, and then she can. That'll be exhibit number 8. I've lost it. 10.
all right, and in this letter, Dr. Berryman, you mentioned that Delara is a very intelligent but emotionally immature 8-year-old girl. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that based on your observations and your meetings with her?
It is, as well as conversations with the school, the parents, and reviewing all the records that I've seen.
Okay. Is it your understanding that someone has asked that Delara testify for in a court hearing for a proceeding?
That's my understanding, yes.
Do you believe that it would be in her best interest to do so?
Yes. As a rule, I try to keep my school-age children out of court as much as I can, therapy-wise. I just, 8-year-olds in this situation get caught between parents and, you know, whether they think they're getting something they want and things don't turn out the way they hoped, and sometimes it does not go well after that. So it's just kind of a difficult thing, predicting how a child's going to react or what they'll say when they're there. So generally I recommend against this age testifying period unless it's a hardcore criminal trial.
And the fact that you believe Delara to be an emotionally immature 8-year-old girl, does that have any effect on your opinion that she should not testify?
Yeah, I don't know that it would. I think she's unpredictable for one, just in general, kids this age are, and two, I mean, I don't know what she's been explained to be. We have not had any court prep for her. I have not brought up the idea of talking to the judge. She hasn't brought it up with me. So I don't really have an idea of what she's thinking is going to happen if she testifies.
Okay. In your meetings with her, have you gotten any sense that she feels conflicted between her parents already?
You know, I think she wants to see her mom, but in her words, the visits have gone bad. And her explanation is kind of all over the place to some extent. And she knows that she has problems at school. I mean, so she really hesitates saying anything negative about either parent. I know she loves them both. That's not a doubt in my mind about that. But she really hesitates talking negatively about anybody.
If the court decided not to take that recommendation and to allow the child to testify, do you have any suggestions about how that testimony might be best presented to the court?
I would suggest it be in judge's chambers with only the attorneys present, no parents in the room.
And how long what is your job title?
I'm a licensed psychologist.
How long have you been a licensed psychologist?
I've had my doctorate level since 1996.
Okay. And you've been meeting with Delora since October of 2016, is that correct?
Correct.
What is the role that you've been meeting with her?
Initially, I was asked to do an evaluation, but that kind of drug out for various reasons, and it became more therapeutic. So at this point, I consider myself therapist. I know the school has talked about doing an evaluation for her for the emotional needs, which I think would cover what my intentions were at the beginning. So I think all the way around, we're going to get her covered on all angles.
I have no further questions.
All right, Ms. Raven.
Dr. Berryman, it's Connie regularly. I'm here on behalf of the mother, Lydia Hubbell. How are you today?
Doing well.
All right, so
I guess it means that Delara's not going to be here for a 5 o'clock appointment, so.
I think she is.
She probably will. Her father's with her now.
she got
Oh, okay.
she got suspended from school today, so he went to pick her up.
Ah, okay.
So I'm looking here, I looked at your letter and it showed, it looks like there's 18 things you got recorded here. 2 of them say in parentheses mom. So, and that one says November 2nd mom and it says January 19th mom. Are those 2 dates that mom came in by herself?
Yes, it was, yes.
Okay, so have you had the opportunity to have a visit with mom and Delora together?
I have not.
And have you, I don't see on here any of them that you have marked just dad. Have you had any independent meetings with dad?
Not necessarily. I know at the very beginning when I do an intake, he was the parent that gave me the background information. And as the person who brings her, I've always been just a few minutes checking in on how the week went. But, I mean, so I've not had like an entire session alone with dad. We talk briefly and then I spend the rest of the session with the child. We've met together with the child a couple of times just over setting some boundaries and rules, but nothing, most of the sessions have been Delora by herself.
Okay. Do you have any questions or concerns about whether or not Delora is bonded to either of her parents?
Well, yeah, she seems bonded to her dad for sure, because I've observed that to myself. Because I've not seen her with mom, I mean, I know there's an emotional bond there just by the way she talks about mom, but I have not seen the 2 of them in the same room together, so I don't really know.
Is that something you intend to do?
You know, I'm open for it. I know it's a supervised visitation situation. That's kind of limited, but I'd be open to it if I was able to.
Okay. Now, when you say Delora said the visits went bad, can you tell me why she said they went bad?
The last visit in particular, she said, in her words, it went bad, and I asked her what that meant. She said, because the lady called the cops for no good reason.
Okay.
And that pretty much was it, yeah. That was her explanation for bad. But she wouldn't go into detail.
Okay, so has she made that comment about any other visits?
I knew there had been a problem at one of the visits when they were going to stop the visit, but they didn't. And she knew but she thought that visit went fine, but she knew that was going to get stopped at one point. And there was a threat of calling the police, but they went on with the visit anyway. But other than that, that's the only 2 that she's really commented on a negative note.
Okay. And the last one, so do you remember about when that was? The other one? Other than we've identified one as being January 21st that we've talked about the library. Can you identify a time frame of that other visit that you're talking about?
You know what, I don't know that I have, I have not had a chance to review any of the visits any of the visit notes or anything. So right off the top of my head, I don't have an idea.
Okay. In your therapeutic setting that you've had with her, on any of those, either of those occasions, when she's talked about the visit going bad, have you been able to ascertain whether or not those had a detrimental effect on Delora psychologically?
I know she was angry at the supervisor on this very last visit because she felt like there was not a need for the police to be called. And she was very defensive of her mom. So, I mean, I think it creates some angst and conflicting terms. I don't think she understands totally. I think one of the comments she made about the last one, and we weren't even talking about anything we weren't supposed to. So, I mean, I think she's angry and defensive of mom in that regard, but as far as like long-term effects, it's kind of hard to put that together with a lot of things, so.
Okay.
It's hard to kind of get a really good idea of the motivation for why she acts the way she does sometimes. Because I think there's a whole variety of factors that vary into the formula for that.
Okay, and that was actually going to be kind of my next lead-in question. You must know me too well as to where I was going with that. But so I was about to ask this question, whether there was any indication that that experience had created any anxiety or anything, had heightened anxiety that would cause her to have some of these behaviors that are going on at school.
Well, and sometimes I talk to the teachers and I talk to Laura, and I talk, it kind of sometimes when Laura doesn't want to do something, Laura doesn't do it. I mean, I've experienced that with her myself here, and I'm a little bit more laid back and easygoing as far as I don't have a classroom full of kids waiting on what's happening next, so I have a little bit of time to cajole her into being compliant. But when she decides she doesn't want to do something, she takes her heels in and just refuses to. I mean, she's so. And sometimes I think it's just flat out because I don't want to. I don't know that she's got the insight to dig down and realize that all of this is related to one thing or the other, but I think some of it's just oppositional behavior. I don't doubt that some of it might be, and I have not been able to really coincide her behavior or seeing her mom or not seeing her mom. I mean, there hasn't been a real consistent pattern, in my opinion, that kind of fits either scenario.
Okay.
So I think part of this is just Laura being Laura.
Okay. All right, now, but there's nothing that you've been able to identify that there is that specific association, though, too. Is that correct?
I can't say that it's directly related, but I can't say it's not adding into it somehow either. So.
Okay. All right, now, Delara's pretty smart, right?
She's very bright.
And does she have a, oh, excuse me. Hang on. Have you been able to determine that for her age, whether or not she can testify as to time sequence, such as, it happened, something happened a month ago, a week ago, a year ago? Is she able to do that?
No, very seldom can do that. In fact, I don't believe she could. Not with any accuracy. I've known teenagers that can't do that either. So it's not. It takes quite a while for that developmental stage to come in. So. Facial time stuff is usually not anywhere close to being this kid that just age group, abilities at all.
Okay. All right. Now you state in here, and I think you've already said it, that if she were to testify, you would recommend the parents not be present. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One more. There's one more. Hold on. Don't hang up.
Okay.
Hey.
You know you have a 5.4.
Hey, Dr. Berryman, how you doing?
Hello.
I know Delara may be on her way over there. We haven't verified if that is the case or not. But Dr. Berryman, you said in your letter and in our communications that you have had minimal progress with Delara. When you say minimal, what does that mean?
Well, a lot of our talking about anger management and handling yourself better, she can sit and talk about that, but when it comes to being in the moment at school, I think all of that coaching skill type suggestions goes right out the window.
And
her school behavior is not getting any better.
Okay, and you're familiar with her hitting and biting and fighting peers and adults, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and has the school discussed with you at the current time the interventions that they want to put in place to help Delara with that behavior?
That's correct. In fact, what they suggested, she already has an IEP for gifted, and sometimes she refuses to go to Encore.
Okay.
So I think she's refused the last couple of times before she's on communication with the teacher, but during the SC meeting, they told me that. What they're wanting to do is to do another evaluation, that this time to look at emotional needs, so that they can put some additional services in the school to help her beyond what they're able to at the current time.
And if we were to tell you that Dr. Casey Cart was here, Counselor Casey Cart was here last week and basically said that they're doing interventions with Delara on a daily basis due to her escalations, would that sound accurate to you?
That would. I think with the mother's credentialing, she can get more assistance than what she's getting now.
Okay, and Dr. Berryman, I want to look at line item, paragraph 3. You said she has had extensive behavioral problems for the past several years at school and extended activities. Why do you say past several years? Do you recall?
Yeah, when I talked to the S-team teachers, they were talking about her behavior going back even when she was at Cole Elementary.
Yes, ma'am.
Had some behavior problems even that far back.
Okay.
And then talking with Dad in the school, that I think he was probably not aware of some of the things that were going on last year. They did not report to him to the extent to this they're doing now. She was having some behavioral issues last school year as well.
Right. And can you tell the court if you're familiar with Gower Elementary, their therapeutic model and approach there?
It's one of my schools. This school is very close to my office, so I've seen the number of kids. I've even participated in team meetings over there after school in the past couple of years. And they've been pretty much on top of things. They're one of the better schools in our area, I believe. Okay. And
isn't it true that this school, where you've been hearing consistently where Delara is hitting a counselor or teachers, even with the situation of breaking the toe of one of the teachers accidentally, of course, but that they are basically trying to de-escalate her on a daily basis?
That's my understanding.
Oh, okay. And based upon, you testified earlier that Delara has never, in your sessions with her, talked about wanting to talk to the judge or talk to her guardian ad litem or talk to anyone in regards to this case, correct?
That's correct. I mean, the topic of court has never come up.
The topic of...
I haven't brought it up in either machine.
Okay. And has Delara ever said to you that it's her father's fault that she can't see her mom?
She's never said that directly to me, no.
She hasn't said that to you. And so, and you said based upon your interactions with Delara, she seems to want to please both of her parents?
She does.
And if I could, Miss Dr. Berryman, if you could tell the court on these sessions that you began on 10-10, 10-18, 10-26, 11-1, 11-2, and even on 11-2 with mom, how long were those sessions?
Generally, insurance tells me 45 minutes, but I generally go longer than that. So usually 45 minutes to an hour.
And I know you're thinking that a lot of things are going to help Delara once the school gets on board, but we know that takes roughly about 60 days for them to complete all of that, correct?
That's correct. It's done pretty quick, that's for sure.
Right. And so in the meantime, Dr. Berryman, knowing that Delara has now had her 8th suspension, I want to believe, for the year, what are your recommendations to help this child at this point in time in regards to her behavior?
Dad's on board with working on a behavior program in terms of if she has a good day, she gets rewards. If she doesn't have a good day, she loses privileges. Even one of the last sessions when she had come to me after getting kicked out of an acting program, she voluntarily said, I don't need treasure chest. I have a treasure chest for progress, positive progress. And she told me she didn't deserve one that day because she'd been in trouble. So I think we're going to have to continue doing what we're doing. I mean, it's unfortunate that nothing seems to motivate her at this point, but sometimes you just have to keep on doing what you're doing until we can get other measures in place.
Dr. Berryman, we're here today in regards not only of the child testifying, but as to whether or not the mother should have unsupervised visitations with her daughter. If you were to learn that the mother still had some barriers in regards to appropriate communications with Delara during her supervised visitations, in your history since 1996, you've been a doctorate level, would it be in Delara's best interest if the mother has problems with appropriate communications and appropriately discussing things with the child for her to have unsupervised visitations at this time?
And I would just object. I think that's beyond the scope of what she's been doing, and she doesn't have that information. She doesn't have appropriate information to give that opinion.
I would agree. I don't know if you can lay the foundation of whether she...
And you said on 11-2 you met with the mother, and on 119 you met with the mother alone, correct?
That's correct. And we've had many phone calls as well, and she sends me emails, so it's been a pretty good communication going back and forth.
Does she seem to understand what goal you're trying to achieve with Delara?
She seems to understand that working on her behavior is what we're trying to do. I think she has a little bit of different idea of the cause of the root of all the problems and what will solve them, and I have no control over that part of things.
What do you mean a little bit different idea of what caused all the problems?
Well, I think Mom's feeling is that the child's absence of her relationship is part of what causes a lot of her problems, and I really can't say that's the end all be all what exactly is the problem here.
Okay, so so basically at this point in time, even though the mom believes that her being absent from Delara's life is the cause of the problems, and I'm just trying to restate, not verbatim, you can't make that conclusion right now that the mother's absence is the reasons for these behaviors that Delara is experiencing.
No, I can't say with a clear mind exactly what it is causing Delara to do what she's doing.
Okay.
I have full ideas and it's a variety of things, but I think it depends on the day and the moment and what she's in the mood for.
Okay, and it is your understanding that the school, when they're doing these evaluations, their goal is to determine whether or not Delara is will get an IEP for emotionally disturbed?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and do you understand what, have you had the opportunity to explain to the mother or the father what emotional disturbed means?
I don't think I've had that exact communication with them. Usually the school terms for emotionally disturbed, you know, isn't always a mental health one per se, it's
Yes, ma'am.
educational based one.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I would expect the school to explain that to them at this point.
Well, if the mother didn't know that, Dr. Berryman, what would you recommend that the school do in order to make the mother aware, and that the mother do so the school can keep her aware and abreast of everything?
Again, I think this is beyond the scope of what her services are, so.
We're talking about unsupervised. She's saying that she's been kept out of everything, and I'm genuinely trying to help her so she can get all of that information. So if I'm asking Dr. Berryman her recommendation for how we can go about that.
I'll overrule that one, if Dr. Berryman can answer that.
Okay, am I back on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can barely hear the arguments in the back of the room, so, yeah, and I guess that would be something for the mom to sit down with the principal or somebody, and they come up. I know mom gets emails back and forth from the school, but I don't know what more they can do. I mean, what they can agree to do with her to kind of set up a plan for communication. That would almost be between the school and mom to kind of come up with something.
Okay. Do you believe right now that it would be in Delara's best interest that both of her parents be on board with whatever the school is trying to do to meet Delara's educational and social emotional needs?
I think both parents need to be supportive, yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. That's all my questions.
Anything else, Ms. Ryan?
I had nothing. I have just a question. Hold on. Okay, so Ms. Mack asked you this question. I just want to be clear on it. She asked you if the absence of mother, if you could say whether or not that contributed to Delara's problems. But what I hear you saying is you haven't really sorted out what if there is an emotional basis for her behavioral problems. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
You know, I think there's a variety of things that cause Delara to do what Delara does. A lot of it, I think, is what Delara, it depends on the moment, the mood Delara's in, and what she's going to cooperate with or not. And I don't think it's anything, I don't think it's maybe anything more insightful than she doesn't want to do her work, so she doesn't do her work. If she doesn't want to do math, she walks out of math class. And then when she's confronted about her behavior, she becomes volatile. You know, pinning it back to anything more than in the moment, I can't really pin it to any one thing or the other specifically. Okay,
so would it be beneficial for you in this process to see Delara and her mother together?
I don't think it can hurt anything.
Okay. Would it harm?
It just depends on what the court decides. But, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to cooperate with anything that I can, so.
Okay. Would it be harmful to her for you to meet with her and her mom?
No, I mean,
you would make that call when it occurred, right? I mean,
it's kind of hard to predict how the outcome is going to be after I do that. So we would have to do some, it would take a little strategy. I have ways of front door, back door, keep everybody kind of separate and not have any conflict with anybody and being uncomfortable around each other. So, I mean, I work with this kind of situation all the time, so.
Okay, and has Delara disclosed any physical abuse by her mother?
No, she's not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else, anybody? All right, Dr. Berryman, thank you for your testimony. I think we're done.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think so. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I know.
I'm sorry. You saw my face. You saw my face.
Oh, man. Hold on, Dr.
Hey, Dr. Berryman, I know you talked about, my colleague asked you about engaging in some sessions with the mom and the child. Can you hear me? Did she hang up? Don't worry about it. We'll go another day. She was like, I'm out.
All right, anything else?
Laura might be there.
No.
Argument? start with Gregory?
Well, Your Honor, I want to, I mean, I think there are some issues here that have to do with the order and what was done and then what happened after a certain period of time that you cannot, that can't be ignored here. And this order, and I was not part of the proceedings that resulted in this order October 15th, 2015. There's no doubt I was not here, but I had the opportunity to review this order and go through it, and in preparation for this hearing, and as you've heard Ms. Hubbell say, we attempted to come to court in October and December and January to try to get this issue before the court. And it says here that when the agency facilitating the therapeutic visitation determines that the mother is ready for unsupervised visits, and then it talks about her moving to the unsupervised visitation. And I also went through, I knew about the order protection. It talks about the order protection in here, saying it doesn't trump the order protection. She had no contact with her daughter from the time that order protection went down, and then this order went down, and then June of 2016 is what you've heard, is when finally that order protection was amended so that Delara was not part of it. She did what she was to do, contacted Camelot, got the, or through DCS actually, got Camelot started June 30th. You need to, if you look at these records, June 30th, July, August, mother is meeting with Camelot. You know, there's some notes, maybe she mentions homeschooling, but they don't go crash the visitation. There's either some redirection, but over and over and over again, there are positive comments about the mother's visitation with her daughter. And then you'll note, which I think is very telling, on August the 26th, which I had read into the record, is this engagement with Mr. Guider and Camelot, where he becomes very aggressive with them. And then from the and then he cuts her off in September. He unilaterally, and it's reflected in these records. It says, when you look at September 23rd, 2016, the counselor contacted Mr. Guider, and he stated he wanted a licensed therapist in her office to do the visits. He went on to say no one can stop the mother from talking about school or other things, and he was going to wait for any visits because he needed to talk to his lawyer. And then you go on and you read in those records on where he says that he doesn't want any visitation. It's not in the child's best interest. His attorney's going to file a motion to stop visits in October. Mother is completely cut off again unilaterally by the father for refusing to cooperate with those visits in September and October.
Yeah, just one second.